All right, let's talk about the cloud. We've all heard the pitch, right? It's the ultimate upgrade for any business. Super flexible, scales on demand, incredibly efficient. But what if that journey to the cloud has a dark side? A bunch of hidden costs and nasty surprises they don't exactly put in the sales brochure. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at the real-world cloud journey, turbulence and all. And look, we have to be fair. The promise of the cloud, it's absolutely huge. I mean, the agility it offers is just incredible. You get access to massive computing power, tons of storage, all the software you can imagine, and you get it whenever you want it, all without spending a fortune on your own physical hardware. There's a reason, a very good reason, why it's been such a game changer for innovation.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, here is the catch. Moving to the cloud, it's not like flipping a switch. A better way to think about it is like moving your entire company to a whole new country. All of a sudden, you're trying to speak a new language, navigate completely different laws, and you're running into problems you just never could have seen coming. So what are these hidden costs, really?
Okay, so our journey starts with what I like to call the migration gauntlet. This is your first step into the cloud. And honestly, it's one of the most underestimated challenges of the whole process. We're talking about the messy, high-stakes business of actually getting your stuff, your core operations, off your own servers and into the cloud. To get through this gauntlet, you need a serious checklist. First up, you have to take a long, hard look at all your existing tech. What's even compatible? What can actually make the jump to the cloud? Second, you need an absolutely rock-solid plan for moving all your data and your applications. You can't afford to lose a single byte. And third, and this is a big one, you got to deal with the people. You know, the human resistance to a change this massive.
And you really can't overstate the risk here. I mean, if you mess up the planning and execution, we're not just talking about a headache. This isn't just an annoyance. It can be a full-blown disaster that disrupts your entire business and bleeds your budget dry before you've even gotten started.
So what do these hurdles actually look like? Well, they're very real. You might suddenly find out that your most critical piece of old software just doesn't work in the cloud. Or maybe your network just isn't beefy enough to handle the new load. And remember, you probably still have some systems running on site that need to talk to the cloud stuff. And layered on top of all that tech stuff, you've got real human anxiety about jobs and learning totally new ways of working.
All right, so let's say you made it. You survived a migration. Phew, but the journey's not over. Now you have to actually live in the cloud, day in and day out. And this is where a whole new category of problems starts to crop up, what we can call the operational headaches.
And here's where one of the biggest myths about the cloud starts to fall apart. You're sold this beautiful idea of pay-as-you-go savings. But the reality? Your bill starts getting padded with all these costs you never expected. We're talking about sneaky data transfer fees, having to pay extra for decent customer support, and getting tangled up in totally new, super complex licensing agreements. And the risks you face every single day? They are relentless. Your cloud provider can have an outage that brings your entire business to a screeching halt. You might have to deal with slow performance that drives your customers and employees crazy. And then you have the big ones, the stuff that keeps CEOs up at night, the constant threat of a security breach, and trying to navigate this insane, ever-changing web of regulations like HIPAA, GDPR, PCI DSS. It's a minefield. You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head. It makes something abstract like latency feel painfully real. Just picture it. Your sales team's main tool, their CRM, takes 5 extra seconds to load every time they use it. That's not just annoying. You multiply that by every person every single day, that is a massive direct hit to productivity and, you guessed it, lost sales. Real money walking out the door.
Okay, get ready for a number that should honestly make you stop in your tracks. A study by the Cloud Security Alliance found that only 30%, of companies feel like they actually have the right experts in-house to handle cloud security. Let that sink in. That means 7 out of 10 companies are out there dealing with all these crazy security risks, and they're basically flying blind. It's staggering.
And why is that number so scary low? Well, it comes down to a simple, massive problem of supply and demand. As you can see here, everyone rushed to the cloud, so the demand for skilled people just skyrocketed. But the number of actual experts out there,
It hasn't come close to catching up. And that talent gap makes it incredibly hard, not to mention incredibly expensive, to find the people you need to manage all this stuff properly.
Okay, so we've talked about the migration pain and the daily headaches. Now let's zoom out and look at the really big picture, the long-term strategic traps. These aren't the things that cause a fire today. No, these are the slow-burning risks that can quietly, silently, hollow out your business from the inside over time.
And the first, and maybe the biggest of these traps, is something called vendor lock-in. You absolutely need to understand this one. It's what happens when you get so tangled up in one provider's ecosystem, an Amazon or a Microsoft or a Google, that the thought of leaving becomes a complete nightmare. It's just too hard, too expensive, or both.
So what's the big deal? Well, here's the consequence. The second your provider knows you're locked in, you lose all your power. You've got zero bargaining chips. They can hike up prices, and what are you going to do? You have to pay. Your ability to try cool new tech is suddenly limited to whatever they decide to offer you. You're not in the driver's seat anymore. You're just a passenger.
Which brings us to another huge strategic question, one that a surprising number of companies totally forget to ask. When you put your data in the cloud, where is it actually going? It isn't floating in some digital ether. It's sitting on a real physical server inside a real building in a specific country. And trust me, where that server is located, it matters a whole lot.
This whole concept is called data sovereignty, and basically it means that different countries have very different rules about data. For example, under GDPR in the European Union, if you have data on EU citizens, it pretty much has to stay in the EU. And over in China, their cybersecurity law says data on Chinese citizens has to be stored inside China. Now, if your cloud provider doesn't have data centers in the right countries, you could be breaking the law and not even realize it.
So, when you put all these traps together, what's the big takeaway? It's this hidden, creeping loss of control. You slowly lose the power to customize your own systems. You get boxed in by your vendor-specific rules. You might not even be able to use the security tools you know and trust. And all of this adds up to one thing: less freedom for you to innovate and run your business your way.
Okay, I know. After hearing about all these hurdles and traps, you might be thinking, geez, is the cloud even worth it? But here's the good news. There is a smart path forward. The answer isn't to run away from the cloud. The answer is to navigate it properly, with a good map and a very clear strategy in mind.
And the absolute core of that strategy is this: you have to reject the idea that it's an all or nothing choice. It's not about going all in on the cloud or staying all out and getting left behind. The real win, the real success, is in the middle. It's about being smart, being flexible, and being really strategic about what goes to the cloud, and more importantly, why. This is where a concept like hybrid cloud becomes so incredibly powerful. And please, don't think of it as some weak compromise. It's not. It's a really smart, sophisticated strategy. It lets you get the best of both worlds. You keep your most sensitive data and critical systems on your own servers, where you have 100% control. But you use the cloud's amazing power and scalability for everything else.
And here's a wild paradox for you. A really smart cloud strategy actually includes a detailed plan for how to leave the cloud. Yeah, it's called the cloud exit strategy. It means you always know exactly what it would take to bring things back in-house. You know which data to move first. You're always watching the costs. Think of it like your strategic escape hatch. It's the one thing that guarantees you'll never, ever be trapped. And really, this brings us full circle. Because if you think about these big issues, like vendor lock-in and making sure your data can be moved easily, if you think about them from day one, you never give away your power. You stay in control of your own technology, of your own destiny. So, I want to leave you with one final question to think about, a question to take back to your team. Is your company's cloud strategy a one-way ticket, bought on a promise and a prayer, or have you been smart enough to plan for the return trip?